you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Aloha, everyone. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Financial Group, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I took the last 6 months off from the show just to reevaluate some things. And so I want to just kind of give you a 2022 recap, tell you where I've been, tell you what I've been up to, and we can take it from there. Like I said, the last 6 months I've just been reevaluating everything, the direction that I want to go in, and who I really want to help, and who really, really, really needs it the most. And sadly enough, the people that need my help the most, a lot of them don't even recognize it. They don't even know they need help. They think they got it all figured out. They think they got it all covered. And so I want to share with you what I've done to prepare for this. The first thing I've done is I've evaluated what I fed my mind over the last 6 months. I took a look at what I was hearing, what I was seeing, what I was listening to, who I've been talking to, and things like that. I've evaluated what I fed my body, my health, my breakfast, my lunch, my dinners, my weekends, my snacks. I've evaluated all of that. Some good, some bad. And the last thing I've done is I've evaluated what I've fed myself spiritually. That's right. We're three parts. We're mind, spirit, and body. Some people say mind, soul, and body, but the mind and soul, they're actually the same thing, and I won't get into that. So who do I really want to help the most? And like I said, I thought about this. I even started something new. I started a new venture, and after about 3 or 4 months, I realized that I don't want to do that. And I said, wait a minute, isn't everything I look at about either I do what I love or I'm doing what I hate? And isn't my message to stop doing what you hate? So I had to realize it and take a dose of my own medication. And I've recommitted to starting back up my own podcast show. I think that's my gift, along with some other things. And my mission is to share financial information and to help people get to a better place than where they are today. So who are the people that need my help the most? These are the people that are in the middle class. And there's a lot of different reasons why people are in the middle class. Some people, they don't want to be in the middle class. They want to be rich. Some people don't like the rat race of the middle class and they rather have less. But regardless of where you are, I want to share with you a stark warning. And this is very, very important. And this is why I've rededicated my purpose. I've rededicated the show to helping the people that are in the middle class. The middle class gets hit the hardest. They pay most of a large percentage of the taxes. They pay a large percentage of the tuition at colleges. They pay a large percentage of payroll taxes. The rich have gotten rich off of the backs of the middle class, not the poor. But the narrative is the rich are getting rich off of the backs of the poor. That is not true. And we're going to get into this. And I want to share with you something because I've been here. I thought this way. The things that I'm going to share with you are coming directly from my own life's experiences. And so hopefully this is going to help you get to another level. And I want to talk to you about today's show. The title is Enduring the Pain of Getting Wealth. That's right. Enduring the pain of getting wealth. So are you ready? All right, we back. 1, 2, 3. Let's get it. All right, so this has been a big one for me. And the reason why it's been so big is because 2022 in terms of, depending on how we've invested and whatnot, been somewhat of a disastrous year. Some of the stocks have done extremely well. Some have done extremely bad for a lot of different reasons. I won't do a market recap today and tell you where we are and where we're going to go. I'll do that in the next show. But it's been extremely brutal, extremely brutal. And I can't sit here and point fingers and say who's to blame for it. But here's what I want to say. Many people don't understand how incredibly painful it can be in getting wealth. And again, many people do understand. And that's why they choose to remain stagnant and where they are. And so today I'm going to share with you what it takes and why you should persevere through it. I've seen this slow drain in the stock market of people selling off, bad news after bad news after bad news. And it's been disastrous. But I'm going to share with you, it is in times like these when wealth is really created and wealth is really made. A lot of people have ran away from the stock market. They've hunkered down. They're sitting all in cash and they're waiting. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's bad at all. But here's what's happening. I've studied the charts. I've gone back through all the different recessions. I've gone back through the different bear markets and I've looked at charts. I've looked at data. And here's the one thing that stands out to me the most. Regardless of the circumstances, the one thing that was the driving factor in all of the sell-offs and in all of the rallies is the human emotion. A buddy of mine calls it the price to emotions ratio versus the price to earnings ratio. And I want to get into this real deep. And if you guys can bear with me, I'm just going to lay it out. There is a war going on in the middle class, right? There is a war going on. There is a cultural war going on, an economic war going on, a mental and emotional war going on. And it's sad to see the number of people that are going through the things that they're going through. In 2022, there was a lot of unnecessary pain. There's a lot of unnecessary relationship pain. There's a lot of unnecessary financial stress, a lot of unnecessary emotional stress. In 2022, there was a lot of stuff that happened that was unnecessary. A lot of it was totally avoidable. But you know what? It happened. And so we got to get through it. And so now here in 2023, I'm going to tell you something straight up. I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot better than it was last year, but there are some practical steps that you can take to make sure you are ready for the restart whenever the market does recover, because eventually it's going to recover. What goes down must eventually comes back up, because if it doesn't go back up, we're all done. We're all shot, right? Again, there's a war going on with the middle class, from the education system to the economic system. So let's talk about the educational system. Our educational system is failing our kids. The stuff that they're teaching our kids in school, the things that kids are learning in college, a lot of it has nothing to do with what it takes to be a successful human being in life. And again, this is the war on the middle class. Okay? I'm not going to say who's waging the war, but it's happening. In 20 years, there may be no middle class, only the rich and the poor. I am not kidding you. I am not kidding you. If things continue to go the way they're going right now, right? If there is a middle class in 20 years, it's going to be very slim and it's going to look very weird. I won't get into that. But when we look at the scale of people leaving the middle class, very few of them are going to the rich sector on the right side, and many of them are going to the poor side, right? Because I talked about this in one of my last shows, right? I can't remember the name of the show, but I think it was something like Open to Disaster, right? It was kind of like you're going through life and you have no idea what's about to hit you and you're unprepared for it. So I'm going to share with you folks the top 2, 3, or even 4 reasons why I think so many people are stuck in the middle class. And if they don't get this thing in gear, if they don't make some changes, it's not going to end well, right? Because taxes are going up, and they're going up on who the most? The middle class. The wealthy don't have a problem with taxes. I keep saying this. They can hire tax attorneys. They can hire great CPAs. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Trump's tax returns, but I guess they got it figured out. Like, they don't pay no taxes, right? They just use all of these deductions and all of these business losses and just cover up all the profits and things like that, depreciation, whatever. And, that's the way the system is designed. But if you're in the middle class and you don't figure these things out, it can have a detrimental impact on your wealth. But first, I want to start to address some of these issues that are plaguing the middle class. We talked about this education prices, right? So in my firm, HG Capital Advisors, Fresh Start Financial, that's one of the things that we've done for years is we've helped people figure out how to beat the high cost of college. Okay. And one of the things in the middle class I see a lot is a lot of people are very, very, very ambitious, but they don't necessarily have the skill or the grades or whatever it takes to get the job done. And we've puffed our kids up so much with all of these, like, you're the best, golly gee, you're awesome, and things like that. And, we give them all the sugar, but we don't turn around and give them the other stuff, the tough love that they need. So a lot of times I see kids, and I'm not saying all kids are like this, but I've been doing this for a long time. And I know the ones who got it, and I can tell the ones who don't got it. Excuse my English, right? They got it or they don't got it, right? And a lot of times when they don't have it, I see parents trying not to hurt their feelings or, because again, kids are struggling with a lot of stuff emotionally. School is hard these days, right? Especially with COVID and the online learning and the bullying and all the mental anxiety, and then even drug use amongst kids have skyrocketed, right? It's so easy to get this stuff. And so what tends to happen is people begin choosing schools based on just, touchy-feely stuff. Not anything really that that has substance to it, but for reasons that have nothing to do with what they're going to do for the rest of their life. And that's why so many kids graduate college, they have no idea what they want to do. And then mom and dad, they're stuck with like tons and tons and tons of debt, right? And that's why we had this big issue about loan forgiveness and all this other crazy stuff that's really not going to go anywhere. Our educational system, in terms of what it takes to finance it, is broken and it needs to be fixed. But you know what? There's some people that are not interested in fixing the system because that's how they get paid. That's the game, right? And when you get caught up in the game, if you're in the middle class, you can't afford to get caught up in the game because it drains your resources. But you don't want to not help your kids go to college. You want to sit down and figure out a strategy to find schools that will allow them to get educated, learn a skill, and then go off and be successful in life, right? College is bloated. Their budgets are cotton picking bloated. They have so many different programs that has nothing to do with what life is going to be like when the kid graduates. And yet it's adding tens of thousands of dollars to our tuition every single year. They become bureaucratic and they've become institutions where you're just being indoctrinated with crazy, silly stuff. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. But as a parent, what can you do? You're going to have to figure out a different strategy, and you're going to have to talk to your kids about this, and it's going to start early. Okay. And it's going to start very early, and it's going to go against a lot of the stuff the counselors are telling you at school. It's going to go against a lot of that. Okay. Because the system getting your kids through college starts early. Right. And if you don't have a strategy for that, get on the phone with me, click in the show notes, get on my calendar, make an appointment. College ain't cheap. The last family I helped, they were looking at $83,000 a year for college. 83 grand a year for college. It shouldn't cost that much. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't cost that much. It just depends on choice at that point. Payroll taxes. I don't know if you guys looked at your last W-2, right? But when you look at how much they take out for FICA, Social Security, Medicare tax, and all that stuff, it is expensive. High income W-2 employees get hurt the most with these payroll taxes. I mean, if you're making $200,000-$300,000 a year and you're taking that all on payroll, that's insane. And that's why I talk to people about, hey, if you can get into consulting or if you can start your own business or you can figure out something and get paid differently, there's ways that you can change your tax situation. State taxes. The middle class gets hit hardest with these state taxes. It depends on what state you're in. California, Hawaii, oh my God, New York, the taxes are extremely high, right? I think we're at 11%, the top bracket. But again, payroll taxes, education, state taxes, and then federal taxes. We're sitting on, what is it, 30 something trillion dollars of whatever it is, a debt. I don't know what it is now. Like I stopped counting. I hear about it in the news, but I'm just kind of like, at this point, they're just going to spend us into oblivion. And both sides are guilty of it. Both sides are guilty of runaway government spending. Okay. They can rein that stuff in, but it seems like there's no physical accountability. So it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. I can talk about this stuff all day. But again, if you don't sit down and figure out a strategy for your taxes, it's just going to continue to get worse. And then there's something I call the family tax. Now, the family tax is interesting because there's this is where it gets a little sticky. Okay. And this is where you're going to have to think about like your situation, because everybody's situation is different. I think there are times to help family financially, but I also think there's times to help family figure out how to help themselves. Because a lot of times if you help once and they haven't figured it out, you're going to have to keep helping again and again and again and again, and you're going to become somebody's crutch. And so I'm very limited when I start to help family in terms of finances, because I know that if I'm sitting there doling out, maybe my kids are going to go lacking. Maybe my business is going to go lacking. Maybe my future is going to go lacking, right? So those are things you're going to have to figure out when to help and when not to help, or how to help them help themselves. Now, here are three things that I find often in the middle class. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, at some point in my life, I actually thought like this, but I had to graduate this. Okay. I had to graduate the level of thinking that I had, because the Bible talks about, as a man thinketh, so is he. As you think, so are you. Okay. And I'm going to do a show a little bit later on about how you can't want to live life like a rich man with poor man's thinking and poor man's doing. That's going to be a show down the road. But here's the number one thing I see, and how I thought like this myself too. I was oblivious to what was going on around me. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on with taxes. I had no idea what really was going on in the world. I just, was waking up, going to work every day, doing my job and, trying to get bonuses and pay raises. And I was in corporate and I was just kind of oblivious. I was going to church. I was going to my Bible studies and my men's group. And, I just had my life, but I was oblivious to the bigger picture. Right. And what I had did is, I had carved out my piece of the American pie. Like I got my little piece of the pie, and that's all I want is my piece, right? I got that. So I'm good. I'm good. I got mine. And that's where my thinking had to change. So many people are stuck there. They get their little piece, they get their house, they get the yard, they get the car, and they get this, they get the trips, and then they're okay. And that's where a lot of people are stuck, right? They can't see past that. That opens you to disaster. When you can't see and cover your six, as they say, you got problems. You got to have it covered from all sides. And that's number two. I was extremely ignorant. I did not have the ability to see the big picture. All I could see was today, this week, next week, right? I couldn't see years out. I couldn't see that the decisions that I was making today, how it would impact my life 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But one day I decided that, look, my life is not going to continue to be like this. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to start my own company, but it's going to be hard, but I'm going to do it because I was stuck at a point where I couldn't get to the next level. And the only way I got to the next level is I wanted to get there. So I figured it out. I prayed about it. God showed me and I figured it out. But the last thing I found that was very prevalent, I was prideful. I was extremely prideful. And I was making decisions that fed my pride and my ego and not my portfolio. I was feeding my pride and my ego and not my portfolio. I was doing things with my finances that made me feel good, that made me look good. But on the backside of it, I was broke. I was living my little middle class dream, but you know, I had a little bit of stuff, but I didn't have a lot. I wasn't rich or nothing like that because I was feeding my pride and my ego. I remember like when I bought my first Acura, when Acura was like the thing back then, like, man, I thought I was like hot stuff. I had my little Acura and everything, man, and it was just cool. I was washing it all the time. My car payments was high and I should have been taking that money. And this is in my early 20s, by the way. And when you're in your early 20s, sometimes you do a lot of stupid stuff. You make a lot of bad decisions. And here's the problem with that. In your 20s and your early 30s, if you're not getting coached up financially, you're going to make some bad decisions. Okay. Some of them you can recover from over time. Some of them, it's going to take you 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how bad the decision you made was. Right. But I got caught up in that kind of stuff and I wasn't really paying attention to what I was supposed to do. And then one day it dawned on me when I came across this strategy called Bank on Yourself about using life insurance to become your own banker and to use life insurance so that you don't have to pay the bank's interest and things like that. At that time, I was working in a life insurance company. And so I had already started buying life insurance policies for myself and my kids and things like that. But I didn't understand the magnitude of it until I found out about the strategy. And then I went on a rampage to start opening as many life insurance policies as I possibly could afford on me, my wife, my kids. I just went like crazy. Instead of buying stocks, I was buying like life insurance. And I think back on it and I was like, man, if I would have been buying stocks and options and stuff like that at that time, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you guys. But I had to switch my thinking. I had to change my thought process and I had to get into a growth mindset because if I did not, look, there's factors that are chasing you. Everybody thinks everything is cool. The economy is down right now. It'll get better. We got war in Ukraine. We got inflation. We got high interest rates. That's going to get better. Yes, it's going to get better. But the question is, are you in position to take advantage of it getting better, incrementally better or exponentially better? Like, when your portfolios recover, are they going to recover a little bit? Or are they going to recover a lot? And so here at Braintree, what I've done over the holidays was I revisited some strategies that I hadn't looked at in a while. And this year, we're going to be mixing some different strategies inside of our long-term portfolios to help clients recover from this economic downturn. No, I did not sit everybody in cash and wait for things to come back. I really don't believe in that in long-term portfolios. You can have some cash in there, but I think in long-term portfolios, you ought to be fully invested as best you can. Okay. Because you never know when things are going to snap back. And right now, a lot of stuff is oversold. And we'll get into that in the next show. What actually happened in certain stocks? I'll dive into that. And we'll get into the reasons behind it and all of the hyperbole and all of the bullcrap that came along with it. But, if you're in the middle class and you think everything is great right now, look, that's a false sense of security. Right. And so we want to make sure that you are covered on all sides. And if you want just that checkup and you want me to take a look at stuff and see where you folks are at and to see like where your vulnerabilities are, like in your IT system, you want to know if there's any way you can be hacked. And there's things out there trying to hack you and you're not even aware of it all the time. The tuition at the colleges, the taxes, right? All these different things that are coming at you. You want to make sure that all sides are covered. And you want to look at if there's any areas where you're vulnerable, how you can patch those things up and get that stuff on track. So you can click in the show notes, click on my calendar, get on the schedule, and I'll be glad to sit down and talk to you for 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on, it's probably 30 minutes, that first consultation or whatnot. And then, because I'd love to see where you folks are at, and then it's free. And you don't have to do any business with me if you don't want to. You just need to know what you need to fix and then go and fix it. Right. So it's kind of like getting a quote to fix your car. And then they tell you, hey, this is, your carburetor or whatever it is, your fuel injectors, whatever it is, you know what you need to fix. And a lot of times you want to know what's going to break too. So you want to stress test your situation, stress test your portfolio, stress test your financial plan, and make sure nothing is about to break on you. Because I kid you not, in the middle class, one of the things I see that happens the most is these unexpected, unforeseen situations that people are not prepared for. And how do they fix them, solve them? They got to go take on debt. So I want to make sure that you are going to be okay. So I'm glad you folks are checking in and tuning in again. And I'm glad to be back. And until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is the podcastfactory.com.